Hello, welcome to Ian's Bricks, and today I'd like to talk about my experience at last week's Portsmouth Brick Festival. So as you know, I go to quite a lot of brick festivals as a trader. I'll book my tickets well in advance for these tables. As traders, we normally have to sort of get in there 6 months to a year before, and so you have all these sort of dates in my calendar, and Portsmouth was a show that was booked in for August. Now, my initial thoughts were this show wouldn't be very busy at all for a number of reasons. Firstly, it was in August in the school holidays, so you do tend to find that shows do tend not to be quite as popular in the middle of the summer as they can be, say, in the spring or in the sort of early autumn time, and that's sort of just from past history of how shows have gone over the past 2 or 3 years. But also there had actually been, I think this was the fourth brick show within Portsmouth itself, and there have been other smaller events in and around the area, but that was the fourth show within, I think, 10 months. So there had been a brick festival back in November, which I went to. Another brick festival, I think, was in February, so they were quite close together, but obviously we had Christmas in between. And then I think there was a national brick event, which was also quite a busy show, back in about April time, I think, which I didn't go to. So this being in August, it had literally been, it's 10 months, and there have been 4 shows in 10 months. So that as well, there can be a lot of apathy. People have been to the shows before. So there was a number of reasons, school holidays and the fact there have been quite a number of shows there before, why I thought that the show would be fairly quiet. However, I was proved completely wrong. Now, I have to say, it wasn't the busiest show I've ever been to, and it certainly wasn't as busy as the Portsmouth show that I went to back in February. That was crazy busy. That's the best time of year. You can sell Lego early on in the year. You've got Christmas out of the way, and people want to buy Lego, and it's this, people don't do a lot of other stuff during sort of early sort of, winter time, early spring, that kind of thing. So people wanting things to do, wanting to go out. So it certainly wasn't as busy as that, but it was, for me at least anyway, a very successful show as well, which I was pleased. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. I was speaking to some of the other traders as well, and generally the consensus was that it was a pretty good show all around. There were plenty of people in there, and people were buying stuff as well. You can sometimes go to shows where there's loads of people around but nobody's buying anything, but this was one of those shows where people were actually spending money as well. And I think the whole experience for me, from sort of start of the day to the end of the day, was just really good. It was probably one of the easiest, not easiest shows, but for me, I suppose, I've been to a lot of these shows now. I'm getting used to doing the shows, and everything just went very well. Nothing really went wrong, which was unheard of. My setup was good, so I'd planned beforehand. I got all my sets ready. I had plenty of time to sort of pack the car on the Saturday, the show being on a Sunday, of course. And then, of course, I got a very good night's sleep the night before. Did go to bed early, but I still had to get up at around about 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's only an hour's drive away for Portsmouth for me, but you still have to get there at 7:30 when the Brick Festival opened the doors. The drive over was fine, no traffic on the roads. It was a really nice day weather-wise. It was a sunny day, but it wasn't mega hot or anything like that. It was actually a little bit chilly first thing in the morning, but the temperatures did soon warm up. And again, my unpacking went well. They let us into the venue 10 minutes early, so we managed to, I was on time, and I actually finished all of my setup just after 9 o'clock, which for me is unheard of. I'm normally there at like 10 to 10, doing the last minute things, pricing things up or panicking that I'd not done something. But yeah, I'm so used to doing the setup now. I've got a certain way that I do things, and it all just went together very well. And then, of course, when the doors opened, in came the people. Again, very surprised by how many people did come through the doors. So, and even the setup at the end of the day, packing stuff away, was relatively quick. I got away, nice journey home, and I even managed to get home and went out for dinner that evening because I thought I deserved it. I had a nice sort of slap up dinner, only in a Wetherspoons, a nice cheap Wetherspoons, but it was very nice at the end of a sort of a good day, really. So talking about the actual day itself and what sets I took. So as you probably seen me before, when I go to these shows, I literally pack everything in my car. I know a lot of people that are traders at shows, they take vans and hire vans vans or they've got a van. And yes, you can get a lot more in a van, and I understand that, but for the level of Lego that I sell, I normally have 2 front tables and 1 backing table, and I have a couple of sort of stacking units as well where I can sort of put other sets on and things like that. But I've sort of, again, I've got it down to a fine art how I pack everything in my car. It's like a really big game of Tetris, getting all those boxes in. But yeah, I can take quite a lot of sets in my car, and certainly enough to sort of warrant me having the 2 tables, and to keep stock replenished as well through the day. It's all right having sets to fill your table at the start of the day, but you want things to replenish them with as well. So in total, I took a total of 176 boxed sets. So what I mean by box sets are sort of, I always take sealed sets, so they can be just from a small little promo that size to a big modular building. So there were 176 of those altogether. Now, on top of that, there were other things that I took as well. There were poly bags, there were little sort of smaller things, things like the Ninjago tin signs, all sorts of weird kind of and wonderful things. So I'm just talking about the box sets that I took. And of those 176 sets, I sold 82 of them. So that's not bad going. It's slightly less than half. I did have 94 of the box sets left, which is kind of sort of average-ish, slightly above average for the kind of shows I've been doing. You don't get many shows where I sort of almost completely sell out. I think that happened in Southampton last year, where I literally had about 20 sets left. It was just really, really sad. My stall had nothing left to sell. But what I do take is I take extra sets like poly bags and things like that. So as and when I sell sets, I can replenish some, but then obviously I have extra sets that I can put out on the table just to fill the space in so it doesn't look barren. As well as those 82 sets that I sold, I did sell an extra 5 things as well. So that I just a couple of poly bags and one of the Hallmark keepsake Benny the Spaceman things that I had as well. So I sold one of those. And so yeah, that was pretty good. Now, of all of the sets that I sold, obviously there's a variety of them, from really, really small sets to really, really big sets. The big sets that I sold, I actually did fairly well on those. And so I've got to backtrack a little bit. So the day itself had gone fairly well, up to around about, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1:30. Things at these shows always do start to die down at that time. And I'd done okay up to that point. I was thinking, yes, this is still better than I thought it would be. Takings-wise, it was very similar to what I'd taken at previous shows throughout the late spring and the summer. And I thought I'd done all right. And then this guy just sort of was browsing around my table. There was nobody else around, and he was having a look, and I could see he was looking at something. He did say hello, and I think he is a subscriber, so if you are watching, hello, and thank you very, very much for what you did. Yes, he was having a look at the BrickLink sets that I took with me. So I took 3 BrickLink sets with me to this show. There was the Forest Stronghold. There was the Siege Encampment, and also the Medieval Seaside Market. Now, they were all on at different prices. So the Forest Stronghold was on at $299, and both the Siege Encampment and the Medieval Seaside Market were on at $260. These are sets I'd got from BrickLink. You actually buy them through Lego. They get crowdfunded, and you can buy 2 of each sets if you want. I did generally only buy 1 each of those sets. I'd taken the Forest Stronghold to a few shows actually, and I had it at £310, and it hadn't sold. So I did actually lower the price slightly for this show down to $299. Anyway, back to the guy looking at my stall, and it soon became apparent he was apparent that he was interested in these BrickLink sets. As well as 2 of the BrickLink sets that he wanted, I can't remember which 2 it was now. I think it was the Forest Stronghold and the Siege Encampment. They're the ones that he said that he wanted. So I started getting those off the shelf and sort of getting those ready, putting them in bags and things like that. And he also got another smaller Star Wars sets for about £40 as well. And then he was humming and hawing, and he said to his wife, who was his wife was at a little thing with the kids. There was a graffiti wall where you could put Lego on and things like that. And he said to her, I don't know whether to get this other set, the Medieval Seaside Market. And she literally just sort of was like, look, you're going to buy it anyway at some stage, so you might as well buy it now. It's there, and there it is. And he just like, I said, okay, then so I'll buy that. So he literally bought 3 massive sets off me and a smaller one as well. And so for me to sort of to have that sort of kind of a sale later on during the day when pretty much the show had gone quiet by that stage, just made my very, very good day into pretty much an excellent day. So thank you very much to that guy. I do hope you enjoy the sets. They are very, very nice sets, those BrickLink sets, and I'm sure he will enjoy building all 3 of those. I did ask him which one he's going to build first. I can't remember which one he said now. I think it was possibly the Siege Encampment, but maybe the Forest Stronghold. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, that was a very, very successful sort of part of that particular day, and for me that just, as I say, made the show all worthwhile. So they were 3 of the big sets that I sold, all to one person. I think that's almost the most I've ever sold to one person. I think there was one lady once I sold a greengrocer to a couple of years ago, modular building. That was about £900, but he was pretty close to my biggest ever sort of single person buying, like value wise, of the amount of stuff that he actually bought from my table. So thank you for that. Okay, other big sets that I sold on the day. I also sold the Harry Potter 12 Grumhold Place. I sold that for £185. This is a set I sold again to another subscriber. She'd seen my video the day before that I normally try and do a video of the sets that I'm taking to shows, and those videos do quite well in the fact that people will see what I'm taking, and they'll sometimes message me on Instagram or on the YouTube channel and say, oh, you know, I'm glad you're taking that set, or I'm looking at that set. So yeah, she came in and bought that, so thank you for that. And again, I do hope you enjoy that set. And there was another guy, he bought the Medieval Blacksmith, and I had that on £150. Now this is a set that hasn't particularly increased massively in value. I think these sets were around about 170, something like that, was the recommended retail price. Now John Lewis had loads and loads of deals on those throughout the year, a couple of years ago when they were on, so I did actually manage to pick up quite a lot of those for considerably less than recommended retail price, but those sets just have not increased in value as much as some other sets of similar kind of themes. However, I did manage to sell that at £150, so thank you to the guy that bought that. And then the final thing, again, I think it was to another subscriber, and he bought the Architecture White House, which was a set I'd taken to a couple of shows and not a lot of interest in that. So again, it was nice to sell a set that I'd taken to a few shows, and finally it has actually sold. So they were all the big sets that I sold. Obviously there were lots of other sort of medium to smaller size sets that I sold, but they're the ones that sort of, you know, you can have a day where you don't sell any big sets at all, or and your takings can take quite a hit because you're only not sold any big sets. You have another day where you don't sell many sets at all, but you only need to do sell 2 or 3 of your big sets, and that will take your takings up considerably for that day. So it was good that some of the larger sets did sell. As well as lots of individual sets, and most of the sets that I take I've only got one copy of, but there are quite a few sets that I do take duplicates of, and the duplicates did very, very well this time. So I sold multiples. Now these are mostly I sold 2 of, and generally when I go to a show I will normally only bring 2 of something, because unless you've got lots and lots of stock of something in particular, then normally 2 is enough. You'll sell 1 and then you can replenish that space on my table with an extra set as well. So I'll just rattle through a few of the sets that I managed to sell 2 of. There was the Defence of Hoth, and that was kind of a minifigure pack that I did a few years ago. I sold 2 of those for £18. There was the Clone Commander pack as well, similar kind of thing, and I sold 2 of those for £25 there. Slightly more sought after and desirable than the Defence of Hoth one, so they go for a little bit more money. I also managed to sell 2 of the holiday diorama sets from Star Wars. They're £24, so not a great kind of thing on that. I think a lot of those, loads of people bought those. I was saying at the time they do very, very well. They just haven't, but they still sell at the right price, and again £24 seems to be the going rate for those particular sets. I've not sold either of those at the last show, but both of them sold this show, and that's how things like that happen sometimes. I also sold 2 of the Bright Bomber brick heads. They were promos. I sold a few promos in duplicates actually. Sold those for £12 each, the Bright Bombers. I also sold 2 of the more current Fortnite brick heads, which was another promo, the Peely and the Cuddle, what was it called, the Cuddle Team Leader I think it is, brick heads, and I sold those for £20 each. Obviously they're double packs. I also sold 2 of the Jane Austen tributes. Now that was another interesting one. So I'd had those on at £32 at this show. I'd taken them to the previous show in Torquay. No interest at all. Nobody even seemed to look at them. Nobody was interested. I did have them on at £35, so maybe the price was a little bit high on that. No interest at all. But then I took them to this show at £32 and both of them sold. Maybe it's more of a local link. So I know Jane Austen was actually normally based in and around Hampshire. She's sort of kind of more the Basingstoke area, but Portsmouth is still technically in Hampshire. So maybe more of a local link there. Who knows what the connection would be, but they both sold. They're actually really nice looking sets as well. So they were £32, and I also sold 2 of the baby spacemen as well. I've got quite a lot of those. I had those on at £30. I'd again reduced those a couple of pounds from the previous show. They hadn't sold, and also because those promos had recently been re-released again, I thought had a look at the prices and they had gone down a little bit, but £30 isn't too bad at all for those, so I sold 2 of those. I also sold 2 of the Speed Champions 007 Aston Martins. I wasn't going to take any of those, and I was sort of scrabbling around in my attic before the show trying to think of a few extra sets I could take, and I just came across a box with a few and I thought, I've got quite a few of those, I'll take a couple of those. So they sold for £28. And also another one which was a weird one was the Paris postcards. So I'd taken these Paris postcards to quite a few shows, not really had a lot of interest in them at all. Again, I had reduced these. I think I'd had them on at previous shows at around about 65. They hadn't sold. I'd reduced them a couple of shows ago to 55. They do sell on eBay easily for upwards of £60. But again, not a lot of interest in those recently. However, one lady came to my store. She's bought a few things off me before, so thank you for that. And she bought some more stuff off me this time. And she bought one of those for £55 along with some other stuff. And as apparently she was doing that, and I didn't see this at the time, but somebody told me afterwards that another lady had come over and was looking for the Paris postcard, and obviously it had sold. Now, I obviously do try and replenish my tables as quickly as I can, and obviously she'd literally just gone just as the lady had bought this thing, so there was no Paris postcard there. But I did manage to replenish, and she did come back to my stall again later, and then she bought the other one. So I managed to sell, for having not sold a single one of those for 4 or 5 shows, to sell 2 in a day. And that's again just how these shows can go sometimes. You can take a set to multiple shows, don't sell it, and then you'll sell 2 in one. So that's just how these things go sometimes. I also did manage to sell 6 of my Spice Girls brick heads, and I did have them on at a very good price again, at £20 each. I know that is quite a low price. I've obviously sold quite a few of these now. I think at the last 2 shows I've managed to sell 6 each of those. So I think what I'm probably going to do with those, because I'm selling them really easy at £20, I am going to probably put the price up of those at the next show to £25. I still think that's a very good price. The sets were originally £45 in stores, and I could probably get a lot more for them, but I'm still happy for me to sell them at those sort of discounted prices. So yeah, I managed to sell all 6 of the Spice Girls sets that I took with me. The other set that I managed to get, I've got multiples of, was the World of Wonder set. I took 6 of those, but I did only sell 1 of those. Those again are on at £20. They are a much smaller set than the Spice Girls though, but I still think that's a good price for the World of Wonder sets, and I think over time I've got quite a lot of those, and I probably will sell all of those. So yeah, altogether a very good day sales wise. It never got crazy busy for me. Obviously I run the stall on my own, so there's just me there dealing with all the transactions and things, and obviously people want to stop and chat as well and take selfies occasionally. Got a couple of selfies this time, so thank you for the people that asked for those. Yeah, so it can be quite difficult to manage a stall. You try to keep an eye on it as much as you can. People are normally very good, and I have had people ask me in the past, do you ever get things stolen? And touch wood, I haven't. Over the many times that I've done these shows, I'm not aware of anything ever having been stolen. There's been a couple of times that I've been close. I remember a kid just walked off with a set once, and I kind of managed to find him and tap him on the back, and his parents were sort of mortified and came back and they bought it. And I've had one woman once, and I remember she was looking at it, she looked very dodgy, and she looked at a set, she sort of picked it up, and so she turned her back. And then I was looking at her all the time because it was quite quiet at the time, and she sort of saw me looking at her, and then she sort of put the set back again. So I think I managed to escape a couple of times where things could have maybe gone missing, but generally I've been very, very lucky. I know there have been tales from other traders of sets going missing. It's generally when people have got bigger tables and it's busy and people can't really watch everything all of the time. Things, unfortunately, this is just the way of the world. Things will eventually, you know, something will go missing at some stage. What I do tend to try and do is on my table, I will tend to have the cheaper or the smaller sets at the front. If I've got anything that's small and expensive, I'll tend to put that towards the back. It's a little bit hard to get, or near to where I am standing as well, just to sort of, you know, to stop people being tempted. But, you know, ultimately you've got a lot of sets there which are 20, 30, maybe £40, and you've got to put them somewhere, so, you know, they will just sort of go on the table. So touch wood, I've been quite lucky that I don't appear to have been a victim of that just yet. So yeah, it was just generally a good day all around. So I'm kind of waffling on a little bit now. Let's talk about the money that I took, because I know a lot of people like these videos because I do actually tell you what I take at these shows and how much profit is involved. So in total, on the day, I took £3,359. How does that compare with other shows? That's actually very, very good. I've done probably about 9 or 10 shows now this year. The shows that I did in February and March were by far the best shows I've done this year. That was the best. They were the best takings for any show since the Bournemouth show in March, where I think in Bournemouth I took 3,800. So 3,359. Obviously it was boosted by the guy that bought those 3 sets off me, so thank you again for that. That really did sort of make the day a lot better. But yeah, very, very good takings altogether, and certainly the best takings wise for any of the shows that I did sort of throughout the spring, the late spring and summer. I think my previous show that was nearly the best before that was Woking, which was in May sometime. Generally they've been around about 2,500 to 2,800, so 3,359. Very, very good returns for those days for me. How was that split? So I took £2,859 on credit cards and exactly £500 on cash. I mean, I was amazed when I was counting my cash. I always have a float of around about £60, mixture of pound coins and £5 notes, because you've got to have that float there just in case. And I also put that float to one side and then count the rest of the cash, and it was literally exactly £500. Just very, very bizarre. So yeah, 3,359 in total. However, of course, that's not all profit. There are lots and lots of costs involved in going to these shows. So of the sets that I sold, now obviously a lot of the sets that I take with me to these shows, most of them, apart from a few promos here and there, which I class as not costing me anything, because obviously I buy sets at the time, the cost is all within those sets, and then I class those promos as kind of free. So I class those as sort of a zero cost to me. So the sets, the cost of all the sets that I sold, not all the sets I took, but just the ones that I actually sold on the day, was £2,037.49. So you can see straight away a big chunk of my takings sort of have already been, you know, that's not profit, because those sets cost me quite a lot of money in the first place. And obviously I get my sets, I buy a lot of them from retail. You've seen me do auction hauls. You've seen me buy sort of old collections from other people and things like that as well. So that's where I get my sets from. So £2,037.49 is what the sets that I sold cost me. There's also the cost of the tables. So whenever you go to these brick shows and brick festivals, you have to pay for the tables that you display on. Brick Festival, it works out around about £170. I think you pay a £20 deposit, and then closer to the time, normally a month before, you'll pay for whatever tables you want. So you have to pre-book how many tables you want, and then you can then add backing tables afterwards. I only ever go for one backing table, because I do have a couple of stands which I can fit behind as well, which kind of works for me. So yeah, about £170 on the tables. Travel, not so much this time. Portsmouth for me is only about an hour away. It's a relatively easy place to get to. I actually work in Portsmouth as well, so it's a journey I know very, very well. I generally only have to go into the office once a week, so it's kind of like a bit of a busman's holiday move. So get up early in the morning, driving over to Portsmouth. I do know those roads very, very well, including all the roadworks they've got on there at the moment. If you know the M27, you know what I'm talking about. Lots of 50-mile-an-hour sections. So yeah, that cost me, I just sort of averaged that about a tenner really, £10 in petrol or gas. I mean, it really is not much. My car's quite economical. It does quite well, even with a load of Lego sets in, putting the weight down. So yeah, around about £10 in travel. So much lower travel costs than, say, the show that I did in Torquay, where I not only had the travel costs, which were more, but I had the hotel costs, and there was extra parking costs as well in Torquay. No parking costs in Portsmouth. That's great. We managed to get free parking right behind the building, stay there all day for free, so that was good as well. I always like the venues where there's free parking because yeah, I'm too tight to pay parking. And of course, on top of that as well, there are card costs as well. So whenever I use my SumUp card reader, there is a charge of 1.69% on all the transactions that I take, which means that of the £2,859 that I took on the day on the cards, £48.31 were costs, and their costs I can't get back. But of course, you can see how much I do take on the card, that these card readers, you just have to have one. I couldn't imagine going to a show without a facility to take payment by card. I think you'd be crazy if you just ever took cash. You can buy these SumUp card readers for, I think there's an offer at the moment, £25. I'll put a link in the description of my channel. I think it's only for UK people, but if you're based in the UK and ever want a SumUp card reader, whether you do car boot sales or just sell the odd thing or whatever it might be that you do, definitely worth getting one of these because yeah, they're very good. What does that mean? So in total, my costs are £2,265.80. What I haven't included in costs are things maybe like tax and things like that. I pay that at the start of next year. It's too difficult for me to work that out. I tend not to pay too much tax every year because whatever I do make, I just invest back into Lego again. So you tend to find that my sort of general overall takings for the year tend not to be too high because I'm always ploughing that money straight back into Lego again. And you could say there's things like printer ink or the plastic bags that I give out or whatever that is. But I didn't buy any of that. I haven't bought any kind of stationery items for the last show, so I didn't bother including those in my total. So total costs £2,265.80. So that meant that my profit for this show, drum roll please, was £1,093.20. Now that is a lot better than the last two shows. I think the last two shows were £500 to £600 each, so I did a lot better. Now, a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, I took more money at the show. That goes without saying, but I think a lot of sets that I sold this time, I managed to have, there was more of a profit margin for me. I think because in previous shows I'd taken quite a lot of sets which I got from auction or bought from other people as part of their collections, there was a very small margin of profit on those sets for me. This particular show, there were more sets that had just more of a profit margin, and that obviously does help with the actual profit that you get from that show. So yeah, £1,093, just under £1,100 in profit for a show is pretty good. I think when I did a show earlier in the year, was it Bournemouth or one of the bigger shows at the start of the year, I was getting about £1,500–1,600. So that actually does work very well for me. It rings true with the amount of money that you take at a show as to how much profit you're going to get. And of course, what I'm going to do with that profit, I'm probably just going to buy more Lego with it. So it's all swings and roundabouts for me. So yeah. So altogether, it was a very good show for me. An enjoyable show, a show that just went very well. No major issues for me. It was a lot busier than I thought it would be, but never horrendously busy. Sold some decent sets. Yeah, it was just a good day all around and made some half-decent profit at the end of the day. So yeah, that was the Portsmouth Brick Festival. I'm sure there'll be more brick festivals at Portsmouth next year. I don't think there's any more in Portsmouth itself that I know of for this year. There might be another national brick event there, I really don't know, but there are other local shows for me to go to in and around that area. For example, I've got the Hampshire Brick event at the end of October, which of course is in Porchester, which isn't that far away from Portsmouth. So yeah, there are other things that I'm going to in and around that area, but not specifically within Portsmouth. It's always been a very good venue, Mountbatten Leisure Centre. It's always quite a nice venue. The phone signal in there is really good. It's normally just 5G all day. You tend to find a lot of these sort of bigger steel buildings, the sports halls, you can have the signal blocked, but didn't even need to go on the Wi-Fi. All my transactions went through on the card reader absolutely fine. So yeah, it was just a very, very good day all around. My next show, it's in 2 weeks' time on the 6th of September, and that is in Bournemouth. And Bournemouth is basically my local show. It's the closest show to where I live. Again, hopefully it'll be a very, very, very good show. I know last year's show was very, very good indeed. It happened on the hottest weekend of the year. I think we had a bit of a rubbish summer that year, not like this summer, which has been, we've had like about 3 or 4 heat waves already this year. So I'm hoping it won't be quite as hot, because it was just but it was crazy busy that day anyway. The Bournemouth shows always do very, very well. So if you are in and around, I think it's Saturday the 6th of September, I will be at the Portsmouth Brick Festival. Then I've got other shows later in the year. I'll talk about those. I'm probably going to do a separate video talking about all my upcoming shows for the rest of the year. But that is pretty much it for me for now. I do hope you enjoy this roundup of the Portsmouth Brick Festival. Thank you very, very much for watching. And until next video, take care, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.